Hello, everyone. Ooh, look at my thing not showing up. There's a thing to show up. Hi. Today, I want to change things up a little bit. I got my giant diorama done for the most part. Still doing some filming on it, but it's mostly done. And so now I need to turn my attention to completing book 3, because I've got book 1 out, I got book 2 out, and if I'm doing my math right, what that means is the next book will be number 3. And one of the things that I like to do for these novels that me and my co-author write is to put all sorts of lovely little illustrations in them. So I like to illustrate our characters and creatures, and just anything that's would be fun to have these little touches to them. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm working on now. I've got a lot of the illustrations for book 3 done, but as I'm doing my final .jpeg on the document, I'm finding there's several other areas where characters are maybe more prominent than I thought they were, and it seems like it would be a good idea to illustrate them, because why not? It doesn't take too long to do, quick little character portraits like these that can just, again, add flavor to the story, let you know what's going on, etc. And so I actually started this process back in, let's see, so we've got 2003 through 13. This is my decade-old sketchbook here, where a lot of these ideas were being developed. What is that? Wow, 20 years ago. Although through 13, so we're talking mere decade plus ago for some of these things. And yeah, some of the characters are still coming out of here. The guy that I'm working on right now, he shows up early in the book, and he is a bluestone miner whose child has been kidnapped by one of these critters. These are nasty little guys who, let's see, okay, so here's where they come from, is this mother tree. These are called the sidge, and the mother tree grows these fruit, and then out of the fruit emerge these monstrous little boogers here. They're kind of like the goblin through troll category of monster, where they can be a multitude of different sizes and shapes depending on what gets fed into the mother tree. So they are scouring the countryside. In this particular area where the bluestone mines are, there's a very valuable resource. The miners come in after there is a crash in the population. It's this valley that's kind of been sealed off because this biological threat is there. And what happens is, like you see in nature often, you know, when the wolf population gets too big, they eat off all the bunnies and other things that they eat, and then they starve off and their population crashes. So this cycle happens on a fairly regular basis, about every 20 to 30 years. And so during the lull, that's when the miners come in. They get as much mining done as they can, and then they kind of roughly calculate, okay, we're seeing them re-emerging, we got to get out of here. Well, they cut it too close, this particular character. And so yeah, so I'm got to make a miner who's meets our protagonist Beaumark, and this is our boy Beaumark, who stumbles into the wrong place at the wrong time, and they're gonna go rescue this kid from these awful little gremlin goblin monsters. And so basically, you know, the rough description in the book is like a well-muscled man. He's a miner. He's got what look like bruised eyes. You know, their village has been ransacked and they're escaping from the sidge, but the sidge have gone off with their kids to feed to the tree. And so I'm looking for where I want to put this guy. And Beaumark recently had a run-in with Lilk here, who kicked his butt. But then he got the drop on her. But then, you know, I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but his sidekick turns out to not always have his best interest at heart. So I'm just going to go to a blank page. I assume I'll probably have a couple of these characters, but you know what? I'm just going to kind of start filling up the page here. This is a custom-made sketchbook that is almost on its last legs. I actually made it out of metal because I like to carry it around with me to places and have all my gear like in there. So I've got this little magnetic latch that I pull my tools out of. Then this spiral binding, this is the unfortunate part of the design I didn't think through hard enough, is that the metal is obviously not very bendy, but the plastic rings, they have to they catch really easily on the little holes, and then that causes things to snap and break off. So it's still holding together, just barely. It's all right. It's all right. Okay, so a soulful miner, lost his kid, well-muscled, bruised eyes. I'm thinking I'm going to do maybe a chest-up portrait bust sort of thing. So I'm going to roughly start with the head here-ish. Now he's muscular, but he's also very sad and exhausted, so I probably want to put the shoulders, you know, kind of down, head probably stooped forward a little bit. And I think one of the maybe a good thing about doing chest and up is I can include, like, they're not warriors, right? They're miners, But what are they going to do if they need to go save their kids from monsters? They're going to use their mine equipment. So I thought he could have like some kind of miner thing. I don't know, like a sledgehammer or a pickaxe or something like that he could be holding, kind of slung over his shoulder. Now, if you want someone to look downcast, you're going to want to tilt their head literally downwards so that their eyes are either at your eye line or looking up at you. If you want to give them a kind of sense of sadness, you can get away with like doing the head tilted back a little bit, but that tends to give more of an air of like authority or haughtiness or I've got this confidence, right? And so I don't really want that. So but on the other hand, he's kind of a leader of the community, so I don't want him to be like pathetic looking either. So we're trying to walk a fine line here, character wise. So I'm thinking like close to midline for the eyes. These guys around Megaloth, that being this big city tower thing. That's one of the big capital cities on the world of Talifar, and they are pretty pale-skinned people. They're at a high altitude, got whitish hair, but he's also really dirty. So I imagine I'll start with a fairly light skin tone and then just start piling on the filth. Let's see, he's definitely gonna have a lot of squintiness to him. He's got a kid, so you know he's gonna be at least, you know, somewhere around middle age-ish. I don't know if he's like a foreman in the community, but he would definitely be somewhere in the leadership. So I'm thinking, you know, he's not gonna be super young. Plus, working in the mines makes you seem old faster. Next, I'm wondering. Let's see. Hold on. Let me see if I can make this a little darker. So you can see my lines better. Nope, that's not gonna do it. Gotta get more contrast in here. Where you at, contrast? There you are. Okay, I'm gonna bump you up. What does that do? Ah, it doesn't help at all. Let's turn the brightness down. It's not looking so great either. I mean, you can see it a little bit better. I mean, I am doing fairly light sketching at the moment, so I'm not surprised that it's not like super visible. It will become, he will emerge. Prepare yourself for emergence. And also, I welcome any questions about my technique, what I'm doing, the world or the story. I love talking about that kind of stuff. So if anything piques your curiosity, please let me know. All right, to get the head stooped, you really need to define this neck going forward a bit. Eyeballs are usually approximately in the middle of the head. I've got a not quite 3/4 view, somewhere between 3/4 and front view. I like doing that because I feel like I can play with the eye line a little more. I kind of want him looking straight at you, the viewer, to elicit empathy. Because the reader should feel for this guy, because that's what the protagonist of the book does. All right, as an older gentleman, he's going to have, usually going to have prominent nasal labial folds. Nose-wise, if you want a guy to look tough, giving him a broad nose always helps. Not that all tough people have broad noses, or that all people with broad noses are tough, but the shape language helps to get that across. Start establishing an eye line here. I also want to play with the asymmetry a bit. I don't want him to have like a model's face. I want him to feel kind of blue collar, salt of the earth, working man. And so to that end, asymmetry is our friend. Give him kind of a prominent brow ridge. Again, that gets that tough guy look. Think of who's the guy who plays Aquaman and Drogo? Suddenly I can't think of his name. I cosplayed as Drogo once. Running around a convention with no shirt is an interesting experience. Do not recommend when it's a chilly spring day. I think I did this forehead ridge a little too far in. Now again, as a minor, I'm expecting him to not be what's the way to, I guess he's going to have a pretty lean body. He's not going to have much fat on him. Working in them mines. It's a great way to stay fit. Highly recommend it. Not quite sure what I'm doing with the mouth here yet. I may change my tactic on this, but again, I'm trying to find ways to get a little bit of asymmetry and a little bit of ambiguity to his expression. Again, I don't want him to seem pathetic, but I do want him to seem really beaten down. I was also thinking of him having a miner's helmet of some sort. You know, this is sort of a medieval-ish time period. Well, it's at least pre-modern. So I don't know that he would have a metal helmet. Probably something more like a leather skull cap, just to make it so if you bonk your head on a rock, it's not going to be as bad a time for you. Imagine it would be padded somewhat, maybe with some wool or something inside of it. Probably some kind of ties that he's not going to have it all tied up right now. Probably the ear would be exposed, I would expect. Okay, with your head thrust forward like this, that's going to make these, I can't remember what those muscles are called on the neck. They kind of have to pop out a little bit, become a little prominent. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe they would be less prominent because the muscles in the trapezius would be pulling most of the weight there. I also have yet to establish a key light position. Usually I do like, you know, that, where it's coming down from there. I feel like most of my portraits are along those lines, you know. This is one of the kids they rescue. Spoiler alert: the kids are not they're not all right. You get kidnapped by tree monsters and see one or more of your parents eaten by them. You're not going to be all right. But don't worry, we do have a book about that little girl after she's when she's coming of age and figuring out how to deal with that PTSD and what to do about the Sige. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and go with my default. Again, I've got a lot of these illustrations to do, so I'm trying not to, unless there's something very special about them, I'm not going to put a lot of demands on the technique. I think I'm probably stubble, like, not like beard and mustache, but like unshaven for sure. They've been through a lot. He's not going to be clean shaven. Gonna be scruffy. And since it's May the 4th, he's going to be, wait, it is still, yeah, it is the 4th. May the 4th be with you. He's going to be a scruffy nerf herder. Let's see, I would expect, you know, his neck to have those, like, dirty filth lines that get built up when you get sweaty and dirty. Because we're going to say, like, he came from the mines to discover his little encampment under attack. So he went straight from mining to Mortal Kombat, and then trying to usher most of the community to safety. And that's kind of when our hero Beaumark arrives on the scene. Now with the eyebrows, what do? If we tilt them up, he's going to have kind of a pissed off expression. If we put him down, he's going to have more of a sad, desperate. I think that's kind of where I want to go with it. We'll see. So many different elements of the arrangement of the face and the features and the muscles and the lighting play into the perception of, you know, the expression they're supposed to be expressing. Give him these high, gaunt cheekbones here. Make sure they break up the silhouette on the side of the face as well. I think it's around late afternoon when Beaumark first encounters him. So thinking there'll be some amount of actual shadow cast, you know, for example, from his nose. Trying to establish where I want the real dark parts to be. Now, if he has a prominent brow ridge, likely to be some amount of shade between the brow and the top of the nose. I'm kind of thinking I want some teeth showing. Just gonna see where that takes me. Again, I may abort this whole mouth arrangement I've got going on here. I'm kind of going for like a pained grimace, maybe. Not like I'm actively getting damaged right now, but like I am in both physical and emotional pain from what's going on. Again, really accentuating all the age lines with the dirt and filth. when I'm drawing this pupil, it's like I keep catching the highlight, so I can't actually see where I'm drawing. So I misplaced it. Right. This guy's name. Is Trago. I recently changed his name because, like I said, we've been working on these books for at least 15 years, maybe 20 years. Guess what his name was? And I just came across it because, it's been a couple of years since I did my last editing pass on it. His name was Grugo. Grugo, I guess. Males in this region usually have an O at the end of their name. But it was basically Grogu, but with the O and the U reversed. So I was like, yeah, that will not stand. Let's see, I'm wondering what I can do to change up this very arch sort of, like, I don't know how tight this would be. Let me experiment with making it a little bit looser. I just don't like that super clean arch line cutting into his face like that. And then I'm thinking like some of his hair might be sort of sweat plastered to his face, to his forehead. So I think I'm okay with all the landmarks where they are. His eyes are a little bit too big. I almost always make the eyes too big to be, realistic, because I'm going for a realism-ish style. I'm not trying to be anime or Disney or Don Bluth or any of those. So I may have to come in and shrink down his pupils as well. Let's see here. For that purpose. This has been sitting in there for too long. Batteries are dead. Let's see what kind of batteries this takes. Come on. Oh, what is the secret to opening it? Oh man, does it flip after you pull it up? No? There we go. Yay, battery acid. That's just what I wanted on my drawing and my fingers. How did it know that I wanted that surprise? I probably should have anticipated that. I don't know when batteries get all like caked like that. I don't know if that acid is still like acidy. Oh, come on. No, you're not even gonna come out. Okay. Well, I don't actually have AAA batteries on me right now. They're upstairs, so I'm just going to do this the old-fashioned way with my fingers. Since I'm liking the general shape of the eyes, I don't want to like completely erase them when I'm doing this. So I'm just going to make a little itty bitty eraser tip. The eraser, it does nothing. Oh, okay. Doing something, just not as much as I'd like it to be doing. That's fine. The whites of the eyes should not be pure white anyway, so I'm okay with a little bit of shading there. And once I reestablish proper size for the iris, I can go in with my white pencil to whiten the parts just where it's needed. Now, it's always easier to add to the size of the iris than it is to remove it, like I just demonstrated. So I'm going to err on the side of making it too small now. I think I also want the bottom to be touching the bottom lid to give it that more squinty, pained expression. Then we gotta get the sort of brow muscles doing something. So if he's squinting, generally that's going to wrinkle up your forehead a bit. Yeah, taking batteries out of things, that's for the birds. They just need to invent batteries that don't cake themselves when they're left alone for too long. It's like that thing with rechargeable batteries where you're supposed to... There's all sorts of like inscrutable rules. They're not inscrutable. To me, they're inscrutable. Like, you're not supposed to leave them in. You're supposed to use them till they're completely depleted, and then you need to charge them every like 6 months or something. I don't know. It's too many rules. Alright, this is a good point to go in. Use my favorite tool, this little rolled up piece of paper. You know, they have all sorts of professional versions of this, blenders and stuff. But for whatever reason, they do not blend as well as just tearing off a corner of the page and rolling it up. So this is kind of like blurring and smoothing everything out, and will help me take a step back and look at the overall tones and composition and see if I've got it where I want it. Definitely kind of wonky and derpy right now. It's okay. I kind of stumbled my way forward. His teeth definitely would not be white in there. I'm still liking this weird expression enough to keep exploring it to see if I can find the value in it. I mean, I already know the value, which is that it gives some asymmetry and kind of a unique expression. The problem is it going to stay this like unnatural expression? That's what I'm trying to find my way out of. Can I get it to feel natural? Might be, oh, you know what it is? It's just that it's extending too far. Like the mouse should be wrapping around the side of the mouth bulge. So it needs to be ending a little bit closer to like here. That gives us more room to have this little corner of the mouth muscle. Now that I'm got all these shadows blended in, I have a little more confidence in really punching them up, like darkening them to, you know, not like 100% dark, but maybe like 80-ish. And another thing I like to do is leave a little bit of rim light around the side. So like, here's an example of that. Yeah, like where there's, I'll shade up to this just enough so that you have that other extra dimension there. I believe in portrait photography and painting. That is a rim light. Could have a little bit of this plane where the nose meets the cheek. That will often catch some of that rim light too. got my lights. They're just not great for doing this. Like where my eyes are, the lights keep bouncing off wherever I put the darkest graphite and just reflect white into my eyeballs. You know, the tricky thing is that working in black and white and wanting to show where the natural folds and wrinkles of the skin are and discoloration of the skin is one thing, but then when you're adding like dirt stains and smudges on top of it, it's just going to take some experimenting. I want to differentiate the bridge of the nose from the cheek. I don't want that to be a hard line, but I also want the cheek to be, or this plane here to be kind of bright-ish, because that's like directly the angle that the light's hitting it. But then there's going to be dirt and whatever other smudges on there. Definitely want him to have dark bags under his eyes, but there still needs to be enough little highlight there. You know, it could be dark, but it can also be kind of glossy from tears and sweat. A bit of a messy shadow line here if this is padded under the leather. Another thing, typically, like the tip of the nose is going to be, there's certain areas on your skin that are just darker than others when in black and white. So like the tip of the nose, you will have a highlight on it because it is towards the tip, but it's also darker around it, and that's kind of why you get that high contrasty, you know, in lips and stuff like that. So, but then, like I said, adding the further complication of needing to do dirt and sweat and stuff on top of that, that's where I'm a little out of my depth. Just kind of winging it and see what happens. We've got the light coming down here. We've got the shadow casting from his jaw. And chin is gonna mostly blacken that part of his neck out. Try something here. Kind of looks like a burnt bean right now. Don't worry, we're gonna do something about that. Don't burn your beans. Let's establish some kind of a clothing. Just sort of a rough wool kind of shirt-ish thing. Probably overalls too, I'm imagining. So pull some lines down like that. Probably gonna have pretty chapped lips. Now he's kind of looking like he's on the verge of crying. So yeah, I think I need to pull the eyebrows down just a bit as they come in. So I think now would be a good point to give him a little bit of life. Right now he is a zombie-eyed dude, but that's what highlights are for. Insty life granters. So I got a little white gel pen for that purpose. And let's see if I can manage to pop them into just the right place. It's kind of like painting the whites of the eyes on your mini. Yeah. See how much that helps? Look, he almost seems like he's alive now. Give them little highlights to indicate how kind of glistening and sweaty and or cryy he is. Maybe one little thing on his tooth. Couple on his lip. It's really easy to go overboard with this step because it's really fun. And it starts adding dimension like really fast. But highlights are like diamonds. The more that are in circulation, the less useful they are. Oh, I guess valuable. But that's only because humans are stupid. That looks like a pretty desperate guy. Trying to think if I want to do some like smears down his face. Gotta be careful to not make it look like he has running mascara. I think if I put a couple sort of random splotches around, that'll help get the idea across that he's just dirty. Actually having like a clean line going over the cheek where there's also a dirty stain can help kind of give the impression of like tears have washed away some of the dirt. Ears are another place where the skin tends to get shiny. And a little bit darker in color as well. If it was in color, I'd be adding, you know, a little bit of red. Let's see, maybe a touch of highlight somewhere in his hair. Is there something I can prop this on so it's not going to look horrendous most of the time I'm working? Let's try this. looks slightly less horrendous. Okay. So then the other thing we're going to do is a hand holding some kind of mining tool. And after I put these shadows in, I haven't gone in and reestablished the dirty creases. Okay, so we got a knuckle here. Thumb poking out there. Actually, let's see, this would be tilting away from the camera. So we'd want this part of his hand to actually be facing us. Middle finger, ring finger, pinky. In this case, we're wrapping around the stick. The stick part of the tool, you know, that part of the tool everyone calls the stick. Yeah, we should really start with establishing that angle. Okay. Got this. Just need to twist my arm around, right? Okay, so got some padding there. Got some nice broad shoulders. bicep in there somewhere. Okay, now I'm not imagining he's wearing spandex, so I've got to figure out how to put like a woolen shirt over this. So usually I start by figuring where the bunching points are on the fabric and then start shooting lines out from there. And then seeing, okay, well, where is it going to spread out to, the broader areas. And then often there's these little like triangles or U shapes. Depending on how tight clothing is. If it's hanging slack, whenever there's like a limb that goes down, you're going to get some of these kind of swoopy McSwoopums in there, as I think they are officially called in the fashion industry. I think I'm going to give them gloves. That would make sense if he just came back from mining. Also makes it easier to render the hand. You could get away with a lot more when they're wearing gloves. Okay, so what is this going to be? Either a hammer or a pick, or both. I was doing some research on medieval mining equipment. There seemed to be a pretty good range of stuff. One thing that most fantasy art does almost universally is massively exaggerate the size of the damaging end of things, whether it's, you know, the tips of swords or war hammers, flails, halberds, spears, what have you. They were often quite small, usually because to have something far out from you, and as you're swinging it around, you get a compounding effect of the weight is going to wear you out really fast. Just adding a couple ounces can dramatically change how frequently and how fast you can swing that thing. And generally, you want to be able to swing more often, faster, even if it means possibly less damage. But really, I mean, if you're stabbed with a knife this big on the end of a spear, or a knife this big at the end of a spear, and it goes like through you, it really, the size of the blade is not that important. And because I'm a boring person, I want my fantasy novels to be really grounded and realistic, which I think actually makes them more interesting, but your mileage may vary. Like, I get way in the weeds of figuring out like how all the logistics of like how the characters are traveling, where they're keeping all their stuff, their cooking equipment, their weapons, the fact that you don't travel with your bow strung. Like, that will ruin your bow. So it's going to be unstrung, and you're usually going to have multiple bows. So if you are in a dangerous area, you can have one strung at all times, but then you're going to change it out on a regular basis. You know, the type of weather, makes a big difference on how you travel and where things are located, either on your pack animal or in a wagon, etc. I don't know. I find all that stuff really interesting. It's not spelled out in the novel because that would make the novel very boring, but it is spelled out in my head so that, when I turn it into the movies and TV series and all that kind of stuff, nothing in the plot has to change for it to make sense visually. Let's see, so those overalls are going to be tugging down on the shirt, probably pooching it up around the edge to some degree. One of the things that I always struggle with in drawing is keeping the head in proportion to the body. It usually ends up being too big for the body. But I'll usually just fix that in Photoshop since I have to get it on the computer to get it in the document for the printing anyway. I just cheat. That's the secret. Just cheat. Being work clothing, I'm imagining it's pretty utilitarian, so I'm trying not to get carried away with fancy lines or anything. I got fancy characters for fancy lines. This guy ain't fancy. All right, I think that's as low as I need to go. Just in general, his torso is more or less a cylinder, so I can safely shade this side of it. And this arm is going to be mostly in shadow. Here, his arm's going to be casting a shadow onto him there. Shadow here. Actually, at this size, this is the best blending tool. And then that's when you go and rub this on your coworker's nose. You go, boop. They love it. They love it. Maybe that's why I work from home now. I don't know. You know, they haven't required that I come back into the office. That may be why. All right, look at that. It's time to raid someone cool. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed and or learned something. If nothing else, you got to see a grown man draw another grown man crying. How often do you get to see that? Thank you, Quindy. Check out all my links, everyone, and have fun checking out the next cool artist.
Oh my gosh, Reaper's coming in. How you doing, you guys? Thanks for the raid, I appreciate that very much. Coming in